Welcome to the DAZN Boxing Show presented by DraftKings. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the former junior middleweight champion, Sergio Moore. And Sergio, we have a terrific card from the Footprint Center in Phoenix on Saturday. At the top of the bill, you've got Bam Rodriguez against Gallo Estrada. And I want to get to that fight because that is going to be a banger. But go down the undercard, and you've got some terrific fights as well, starting in the women's divisions. You've got the 122-pound belt on the line. Yamaleth Mercado against Ramla Ali, a longtime title holder against a first-time title challenger. What do you think of that fight?
Well, I got to go with the longtime title holder because you got to respect Mercado. Not only she's a favorite, but her stylistically, I think she matches well against the tall, lanky, awkward Ramla Ali. Ali bounced back nicely in her last fight. I love the fact that she was able to, bite off more than she could chew and actually win that fight. It takes a lot to get stopped by a fighter and come back and beat that fighter. It takes greatness to do that. Ramla Ali did that. I mean, she has the pedigree. She, from the Olympics, she has the experience as a professional now that she's been beaten and came back and defeated her former foe. I got to respect that, but Mercado's the real deal. And stylistically, when she gets on the inside and breaks the lankiness and the reach and the range of Ramla Ali, I think that's when she's going to be in trouble. She's going to have to bite down Ali. Ali's going to have to really fight off the strong Mexican in this fight, and Ali knows that, but can she do it for the entirety of the fight? That's where I start to question it. I think that's where Mercado's going to be, overwhelm her.
Yeah, I think it's a tough fight for Ramla. The last loss for Mercado was against Amanda Serrano, and that was at 126. We know how good Amanda Serrano is. We know how good she is at 126. So it is going to be an uphill challenge. The only thing you can point to, though, is kind of that boost Ramla got from avenging that knockout loss that you talked about. Because Sergio, 2 fights earlier, that wasn't just a knockout loss. That was a bad knockout loss. She got cooked pretty bad in that fight. She didn't take an interim fight in between. She came right back and won a rematch against the woman that stopped her 1 fight before. So I think she's got some good momentum coming in here, but she's going up against a more experienced fighter in Mercado, and she's basically fighting Mercado in her backyard. I mean, there are going to be 10,000 plus fans in Footprint Center on Saturday. I think most of them are going to be Mexican. I think most of them are going to be cheering. I'm just saying, I think most of them will be cheering for Yamaleth Mercado. So I think Mercado by decision is probably the best bet. The co-main event, I think, is also excellent. A terrific clash of styles between 2 former title holders. Adrian Curiel moving up from 108 after his last knockout loss, going up against Sonny Edwards, last seen here in Arizona against Bam Rodriguez, lost by knockout in that fight, but now here he is right back in another big fight.
Also got to tip my hat off and credit Sonny Edwards for coming back to the desert, coming back to the heat where he had his first professional defeat. And he's doing it against a strong fighter, like you said, in Curiel. Very hungry. Curiel's motivated. I mean, we just spoke to him a couple of hours ago. He's motivated for this opportunity. He thinks it's destined, and he's destined for something great. But Sonny Edwards, man, he talks the talk, he walks the walk. Even in his defeat with Bam Rodriguez, he proved that he belongs. I mean, it was a really good fight, an excellent fight, a style clash. And I had a lot of respect for Sonny Edwards, the way he dealt with adversity. I mean, he really took a physical fight. He told us about his eye injury. I mean, he overcame all that, and he's coming back to the desert, coming back here to prove that he can do it again. I think he's getting accustomed to the heat, and he could take the fire in the kitchen.
Yeah, nice group of analogies there.
Yeah,
I think this is a great fight for Sonny because Curiel is not going to be hard to find. He is a come-forward fighter who's aggressive and doesn't have a lot of power, at least not statistically. Just 5 knockouts on his resume. Yes, his last 2 wins have come by KO. His most recent one, incredibly impressive knockout, but he is not known as a power puncher. So Sonny doesn't have to be wary of that in the same way he had to be wary against Bam Rodriguez. There's also a lack of a length advantage too with Curiel. Sonny, Bam had a massive 7-inch reach advantage on Sonny Edwards during their fight. So I think that's going to benefit Sonny as well. I think this is a great bounce back win for Sonny. I think he's got a chance to stop Curiel. I do believe that. I think Curiel's going to come forward. I think Sonny's got a decent chance of landing some good combination punches and potentially scoring a knockout. But either way, I think Sonny gets a win, and I think he's right back in the title mix at 112 pounds. We both know what's on the line for Sonny Edwards there. Galal Yafai could be waiting at the end of this path for Sonny Edwards in the UK later on this year. So a lot of motivation for Sonny Edwards coming into this fight. Now, speaking of motivation, Bam Rodriguez against Juan Francisco Estrada. This is a true old guard against new guard fight. Juan Francisco Estrada, arguably the best little man of this generation, has 2 wins over Chocolatito Gonzalez, has 1 win over Carlos Cuadras, over Srisakat Rungvisai. He's beaten Brian Valoria. All the guys that are on the resume of Juan Francisco Estrada. Now here he is at 34 years old, trying to add one more name to that list. He gets Bam Rodriguez, a fighter that at this stage of his career is peaking right now. Like, he is at the top of his game coming off that knockout win over Sonny Edwards. Does the older fighter have enough to turn back the clock one more time against the younger fighter?
First of all, never call him a little guy again. He's a little giant, Estrada. So is Bam Rodriguez. And yes, because he's a great fighter, two-division world champion. Every great fighter, and this is a saying in boxing, every great fighter has one last great showing, one last great performance. Against Chocolatito, that could have been it, but that was a close fight that could have gone either way. And a lot of people thought Chocolatito might have pulled it out. So was that his last great performance, or is this one against a 24-year-old two-time champion with momentum and motivation and everything on his tailwinds? I mean, Bam Rodriguez is really doing what 1980s great fighters used to do, take on the best at the absolute peak and prime of their career, which is in their mid-20s. This is a kid, one of the youngest champions in boxing, taking on all the kings. Now he's going on his third king, a king that's never been knocked out in Gallo Estrada. Even at 34 years old, even with that year and a half inactivity, I still think Bam Rodriguez is going to have both hands full with Gallo Estrada. He's a real deal. This Mexican box, can fight, he can do it all.
I'll tell you, we had a chance to talk to Estrada earlier today, and there's a calmness to him coming into this fight. And there's kind of a dismissiveness to him as well. Like, he has watched the fights with Bam Rodriguez fighting Cuadras, fighting Sorungvasai. He was ringside for Bam's win over Sonny Edwards. And I can tell you, he really wasn't all that impressed by most of them. He believes that Bam is a good fighter, but he believes even at 34 that he is still a great fighter. That's what we're going to find out probably pretty early on, because look, it is a long layoff. He is 34 years old. He didn't look that great in the second half of the fight against Gonzalez.
But he did beat the guys that Bam beat in their absolute prime.
100%.
Estrada has beaten all these guys. Even the ones he's lost against, he's come back and redeemed those victories. So he fought Cuadras at his absolute monstrous best. He fought Chocolatito. I mean, he's beaten these guys. Sorungvasai. These are the guys that has given everyone trouble, knocked out guys like Chocolatito. Estrada has been able to box circles around them and then sit down and actually fight when he can do it. So he can box, he can fight, and he can have the experience. He can muster up the greatness in one last performance, and he could do it. He could surely do it against a 24-year-old young champion.
Your official pick is?
I thought long and hard, but I have to go with Bam Rodriguez. Love the momentum.
Yeah, you've been flip-flopping a lot on that. I'm taking Bam Rodriguez as well, but I'm taking Bam by knockout. He went into that fight against Sonny in his last time out with a recently recovered jaw injury. He told us this week he had a collarbone injury as well that he was bouncing back from. He's coming into this fight fully healthy. He's coming to this fight with a lot of motivation. I think Bam Rodriguez late round stoppage against Juan Francisco Estrada. Well, in boxing, anything can happen. So make sure you check out the latest odds with DraftKings, and remember to gamble responsibly.